Today we will be looking at the concept of communication. This is our second lecture, looking at the concept of communication. Communication evolved from the Latin language, and there are two words that are related to this. This is communis and communicare. These are two Latin words that are related to communication. Communis has to do with something being common, commonality or sharing is a noun. It has to do with being common, commonality or sharing. While the second one is a verb, which has to do with making something common. It's an action word. It has to do with making something common. Now, why do we need communication as extension agents? Extension agents has the duty of sharing ideas, information, giving advice to farmers, encouraging farmers to form groups, be able to take advantage of opportunities of credit, of inputs and other things like that. So in this case, we need to be able to communicate with our farmers effectively, be able to help them to know what to do, how to do it, even when to do it. That's why extension agents, we need communication. We also need communication so that we can be able to influence the decision of farmers and encourage these farmers to communicate with one another. All this demands communication skills. But beyond this, extension agents also has a duty to communicate with their superior officers as well as their research, other research workers. We need to let our superior officers to know what we are doing on the field and how the work is going. We need to let them know what the challenges are. This is another kind of communication with educated, well-informed people. And so there's our approaches to communication also takes another dimension. While with research workers, we also need to communicate with them on technical terms. We need to know the technical terms they use and how they use it. We need to be able to talk to them on their level. So we need to be able to communicate with farmers at their level, our superior officers, as well as research workers or scientists at their own level. So as extension agents, we need communication skills. So in exactly what is communication? Communication is a process of sending and receiving messages through channels which establishes common meaning between a source and a receiver. Said it is a process, and so it is dynamic. It's something that is active. It's not a one-time activity. It's something that is ongoing. And then sending and receiving messages. We need to send a particular content. Whichever way, whatever be the content, it must be a particular idea that you want to send through a channel which establishes a common meaning. The issue of common meaning is very, very important, as we shall see later on. So communication can also be said to be the encoding of ideas, or in symbols, or through verbal, visual, or body gestures. Now, communication, the elements in the communication are the source, the medium or the channel, then the receiver, which is the end user. Then, of course, the feedback. You may be able to, the sender or the source of the message, be able to get a response from the receivers or recipients as to whether they understood what he has said or not. That's why the issue of decoding is very, very important. What you as a messenger, the agricultural extension agent, has sent, or what you have said to the farmers, what you have shown to them, you'll be able to find out whether the farmers actually understand what you have said and be able to know how they understand it. That is when you have had effective communication. So if you're able to decode exactly what you encoded, then you have gotten communication correct. So before we continue, let's look at a few questions to see whether we're able to understand what you have said so far. Okay, now types of communication. We have the verbal and the non-verbal types of communication. Let's look at the verbal. Verbal has to do with what you say. What you say. The words of your mouth. is very, very important. But you may realize that only 7% of our verbal communication is the actual words. There's more to verbal communication than the words that we speak. The A, B, C, D, or the yes, no, why words that we speak, is only 7%. What constitutes verbal communication is much more than that. And this includes the vocal aspect, how you say it. Can you see this person is talking? You can see the way he's speaking. It shows the kind of person he is and the kind of comportment he's in and the kind of frame of mind that he's in. So how you say something is very, very important, even much more than what you have said. 55% of our verbal communication has to do with the visual, what we see in the person that is speaking or the person that we are speaking to. That is why the Yoruba have an adage that said, Oju loro wa. That means the communication is in the eyes. It's what we see. You may be talking, and then what you are saying, you don't really mean what you are saying. We can see it in your eyes. We can be talking to somebody and he's nodding his head, but we can see in his body gestures and other things that he's not actually responding to us. So you can be able to read your farmers by looking at them, keeping eye contact with them to know whether they are grasping what you are telling them or they are confused. That's why visual aspect of verbal communication is very, very important. It could be loud, soft, quiet. Communication could be either of this. But actually, it's not what you are saying, but it's how you are saying it that actually matters. So let's look at the non-verbal aspect of this communication type. Non-verbal communication accounts for 93% of our communication. We have said earlier, 7% has to do with the actual words, while the 93% remaining has to do with the non-verbal communication. And it could be with the sounds, the closeness, the body contact, facial expression, eye movements, hand movements, head movements, appearance, posture, ways of talking. All this have something to do with communication. Well, there's a video that I would like you to watch on nonverbal communication. You can check it on the line. It's on the YouTube. And these are the various types of nonverbal communication. We are going to pick them one after the other. Yes, the first one, paralinguistic. This has to do with the use of your voice. The loudness, the softness, the harsh, quiet, or romantic. There are various ways of telling somebody, I love you. You can shout, I love you. That kind of I love you, it's like it's sort of, trying to make fun of the person. It's not a sincere one. When you say something like, I love you, you really mean so much to me. These are ways of telling somebody that you love him. From the tone of your voice, the person can gather that you actually love him or her. And you say, I love you. You wonder, does that person really love me? There are various ways of using your voice. And when you are talking with farmers, be careful the way you use your voice and even the tone, how you increase it or you reduce it, because it affects what you are saying and it keeps them, it keeps their attention focused on you. So an exchange agent must know how to use his voice correctly. The kinesics, use of the body of facial expressions. We can, depending on the mood that we are in, our facial expression will show it. And even our body gestures will also show what we really mean or what is going on within us. You can see from the screen the various facial expressions and body gestures that could say a lot of things. So when you are talking with farmers, you need to gesticulate. You need to use your face to ask them questions, whether they are getting it or not. And then by the time you use your face to ask questions, you can be able to know from their faces too, whether they are getting what you are saying or not. So it's very, very important for you to maintain eye contact. Look at the faces of your farmer to see whether they are lost or they are grasping what you are telling them. Then the use of space is very, very important. That's the third one, proxemics. It has to do with messages sent via the use of space. Your closeness with somebody or being apart from somebody sends a lot of message. If you are telling someone that you care for him and he's going through challenges and you stay apart, But if you go closer and hold the person, you embrace the person, it really speaks a lot, even than the words that you have spoken to such a person. So even farmers, you also need some comfort sometimes when they are passing through challenges. You need to encourage them. You need to know, sometimes, depending on the culture, you need to hug some, you need to pat them and let them know that they are doing well, or that you also feel for them. These are things that you can do as an extension agent. Then we also know that when you are dealing with farmers, you don't need to always sit in front of them and then they sit behind, in front of you as students. Make sure you are sitting in circles to make them feel part, to make them feel close to you, and so that they will not feel that you are somebody better than them or more superior than them. When you sit in circles, it shows that, look, we are all equal on this level. Then we have the creative and the aesthetic. It has to do with the singing, the dancing, the sculpturing, the painting, and other things like that. We can present our messages to farmers through different means. And music is a very good way. One of the Nigerian legends in music, Chief Ebenezer Obey, he sang a song during the inception of Operation Feed the Nation program, in Nigeria during the Obasanjo era. He used the music to publicize the program Operation Feed the Nation. And it's very, very important to know that even without talking to farmers, by the time they begin to sing the songs, it gets into their subconscious and they begin to get attracted even to what you're trying to tell them about. So using music, using dancing, dance dramas, all this kind of role plays, all those things, they are creative and aesthetic, ways of reaching out to our farmers, making them to understand what you want them to know. Then we have the visual or the symbolic, which is the fifth one. Has to do with the topography, photography, signs, symbols, designs, and various things like that. We can see all over, there are various signs here and there. Science speaks much more, and we have been told that a picture speaks much more than 1,000 words. So that is why using picture is very, very important. Now, the written aspect. Written communication is a non-verbal communication. It has to do with putting down words on paper or other medium. These days we have the electronic medium, the email, the text message, and the bulletins that we can use to send messages to people. You can see on the left side of the screen, the toppermost part, you can see the billboard, the bulletin board with various bulletins and posters and handbills, all these to send message or to pass across information to the targeted audience. We can use this for our farmers. We can have posters, we can have bulletins, we can have charts and other things like that. Then we can, we have also the electronic on the computer and other things like that. These are the written forms of communication. With this, we are rounding up with our lecture, but you must also understand that there are other categorizations of communication. We have only looked at the verbal and the non-verbal. We could have formal and informal. We could have written and non-written. We have participatory and non-participatory, and other categorizations. So it depends on the way you are looking at it, the approach which you are taking before you're able to decide whether a particular type of communication falls into one group or the other. And with this, we end our second lecture, and I hope you had an interesting time and you understood. Well, if you don't understand, well, I'm still available if there's any question that you have for me. And then we also need to review what we have done, so we're able to bring out the points or the details of this lecture. So let's look at some assignment for us to do. Well, the first one has to do with individual assignments, which you need to do on your own, and then after that you are going to have a group assignment, which way you are going to discuss together. Secondly, you are going to have individual assignments, which has to do with you making use of your hands and making use of your skills and talents to make photograph of yourself with in 5 different facial expressions, and then try to find out whether your friends can decode the meaning of what you are presenting to them. Then you need to do photographs of 5 signs and to find out whether your friends know the meaning of the signs, whether they can decode exactly the meaning of your signs. Then finally, we have the group assignments. These ones we are going to have 3 groups, and your different group assignments are shown on the screen. The first group is going to create a questionnaire for farmers on a particular subject of opinion, perception, or attitude, using facial expressions to represent the responses you expect from them. The second group has to create a questionnaire for farmers also on a particular subject of opinion, perception, or attitude, using body expressions to represent the responses you expect from them. And the third group, we have to create a pictorial questionnaire for farmers on a particular subject. This questionnaire will only be pictures, no words. So you must know this also demands your skill and ingenuity. Thank you very much.